Hey everybody, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness, and I've got another interview slash discussion for you guys. I talked about it in my last interview with Justin. I've got Tony from the A Minute to Midnight YouTube channel. With On Point Preparedness. Whoops. And I've got another actually, one sec. Slash discussion for you guys. I need to turn down my volume here. Apologies for that. But anyways, I got Tony with A Minute to Midnight, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you guys can see his YouTube channel. Just one moment. So Tony, I've been on Tony's channel for twice, I believe, right, Tony?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's only that. We're definitely wanting to get you on a lot more often. I tell you that.
Yeah, me and Tony. It's been what, like 6 months? I think we did the first one, and maybe 2 months later, we talked about Rome and Mystery Babylon. I think in one, and the other one we talked about AI. And me and Tony hit it off. So we like talking to each other. And I said, hey, you need to come on my channel, and people need to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed those two shows, and yeah, I'm definitely keen to sort of do it fairly regularly. Actually,
Cool. Well, here, let me present my screen to everybody. Let me see if you can see this. All right. Tony, can you see your channel on my screen right now?
yes, I can.
Okay, great. So his channel is spelled A Minute To, and then Midnight is MIDNITE. As soon as this discussion closes, I'll go ahead and put a link in the YouTube description box so you all can see it. But he's got a lot of great material on here, as well as a lot of good interviews. Especially one of the things that I wanted to talk with Tony today on was his interview. It's actually a little bit of a mini debate between Joel Richardson and Bill Salus. Now, these two individuals were talking about Mystery Babylon and exactly who or what that is. It's a huge discussion point among prophecy circles. Now, Joel Richardson comes in from the standpoint of saying that Islam is Mystery Babylon, and then Bill Salus is saying that it is Roman Catholicism. And so Tony did an amazing job moderating the debate and had a lot of good questions himself. So I want to pull in some of Tony's research as well. But Tony, how do you think the interview went?
I was very pleased with it. Actually, I was quite nervous about it beforehand because they both had different opinions, and mine is slightly different again. I really wondered how it would go, but yeah, I was very happy with the way it went.
Yeah, it went really well. And how did you find out about both of them? Because I know they did a DVD and they had a debate on there, a much longer one. You could only do about an hour on your show, but is that how you found out about them?
No, actually, I've had Bill on the show. Bill Saunders has been on the show, I think, twice previous to that on the Minute to Midnight show, and he actually approached me and said him and Joel have done this. Would I be interested in having them on the show? So I worked it out with Bill and said, yeah, I'd be keen. I sort of said when I could do it roughly, and then let them work it out, and then yeah, so between them they worked out when they could do it, and we got into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling everyone that's watching this broadcast right now, you need to see that interview because it was awesome just to see the perspectives, and it was edifying to see two Christian people talk about Mystery Babylon and prophecy without going at each other's throats. It was very gentlemanlike, right?
Yeah, that was actually to me the most amazing part about it. It's so refreshing, when people can have a different viewpoint and respect each other and not treat each other like a lion and a wolf or something,
Yeah.
It was really excellent.
Now this is this is going to be a fun discussion. So I'm not sure if you're following the comment section, but people are already talking about who Mystery Babylon is. I see a lot of people out there saying Mystery Babylon is the United States of America. And so I know you're working on a video for this. It's upcoming. So that's another reason to subscribe to your channel, just to see, the material that you're going to put out on this. But do you have any precursory info for people on who or what you think Mystery Babylon is? And then I'll also give my own point of views to the folks.
Okay, well, first off, I'd just like to say, besides our YouTube channel, we also have a website which people may want to follow because we put articles on there as well as our shows. So we've kind of got a little team and we write articles as well as doing the shows, and it's AMinuteToMidnite.com. So that's first thing, if people want to go there, they can get not only the videos, but articles too.
You've been attacked a lot. I mean, not just from YouTube, but Facebook. And so that's like your home base, right?
It is, and then it was a couple of weeks ago, someone spent about 6 or 7 hours trying to hack into the website. I could see it, what they were trying to do. In the end, I got so hacked off, I actually posted a comment on the front page saying, "The person in the USA that spent 6 hours trying to hack our website, and forget it," basically. And it stopped pretty much immediately after that. They obviously read the comment. But, yeah. So, we do get, I've been in Facebook jail and YouTube banned a couple of videos and things, but hey, that's just par for the course, I think. Yeah, now back to the video. I actually did another one since the one with Bill and Joel, where I talked a lot about the Pope and people like Kenneth Copeland that are trying to lead the Christian church back to Rome, basically, and I sort of exposed them there. And that's been going along really well, getting a lot of good comments. It's the fourth in a series I've done about the New World Order in 2018. And at the moment, I'm working on a fifth one, which is going to bring another angle again to the whole discussion of the end time religion. And let me just say, I think it's going to open a few people's eyes.
Yeah. So in your interview, Bill and Joel had some perspectives that, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not 100% sure. They literally think that Islam, as we know Islam today, will be Mystery Babylon from Joel's perspective. And Bill said that Roman Catholicism will still remain as Roman Catholicism, both still false religions, but they will still essentially be what we know of them today. Is that right? That's what they think it'll be?
Well, I think the Islamic perspective that Joel brings is what you just said, but I'm pretty sure from having spoken to Bill before that he doesn't necessarily think that the Vatican is going to remain Roman Catholicism exactly as we see it today. I
Yeah.
think it'll morph into something slightly, different than what we have
But
now.
one of the things I thought was interesting, and I'm really going to love to cover this because it's sort of a fresh perspective. I don't know if I really 100% believe it, but Bill doesn't believe in ecumenicism, that all the world religions are going to bind together, right? So he doesn't think that there's going to be some end times event where Roman Catholicism and Islam and Judaism and Buddhism, he doesn't think that they're all going to mesh together, right? And I think Joel didn't think that either.
Well, yeah, Joel doesn't think that. He thinks Islam's going to be it. I'm not exactly sure with Bill on what his perspective on that is. You'd probably have to listen to the whole debate or more of what he's had to say. I got the feeling that with Bill, he believes that the Vatican is the center of it all, but whether they mesh in with other religions, I'm not exactly sure. We didn't really get into that in the interview.
Yeah. Do you think that it's possible that they're all going to merge together? I mean, I think we talked about on your channel, right? I was a little bit hesitant to talk about it, but the whole alien deception, right, that people are following, that could really be one thing that unifies all world religions, at least the moderates. One of the things I'm thinking that was interesting is, we talk about that this is not a battle between the flesh. This is all a spiritual battle. And I'm just going to paint an analogy for everybody. When we think about this one world religion and we say that, oh, Islam and Christianity, false Christianity and Judaism, they're all going to come together and everyone's going to be against the remnant. I had a thought. I don't know if that's 100% true. So just let me know what you think about this. I think that there's going to be staunch conservatives in each one of the religions. So Islam and Judaism and Christianity. And then you're going to have a liberal mindset amongst all these religions. And let's just say, just a theory that we do have this alien deception thing. And they say that they know the foundation of the world. They hold all the wisdom and secrets. We all need to come together. You need to stop all the infighting. That's barbaric. You're going to have conservatives, I think, amongst all the world religions reject it. And even if some of these people belong to a false religion, so some people that, worship Muhammad and Allah, even though they're worshiping a false religion, they could still get killed by the beast system. So if you think about, and this is a terrible analogy in case, people are of the Muslim religion, but, if there's two people that are not saved in Christ and they're fighting and they just take one another out, is that kingdom against kingdom? No. It's two humans fighting against themselves, and it's demonic powers influencing them. And so I think that you might have conservative Muslims and conservative Jews and conservative Buddhists that actually are slayed because they won't basically give in to this one world religion. It won't be just the remnant. Not to say that these other people are going to be saved because of their sacrifice, but I just think that they might be sacrificed for it anyways. What do you think about that?
Well, my personal opinion is you're probably right that there will be those people that will reject it like that. But my perspective is I think the deception is going to be so great that we haven't seen anything yet like what it is going to be. It's going to be such a great deception that the majority of people are going to willingly fall for it. They're willingly going to embrace it. Like you mentioned, the alien deception and things. I think that, you know, we're warned in the Bible that it's going to be a great falling away and a great deception, and look out for signs and wonders and things like that. And I think that's what's happening because, quite frankly, I don't see any of the current religions that we have now being the religion as it stands now of the New World Order or the Mystery Babylon, the end times beast. I think we've got something yet to come that's going to pull them all in together. And I personally believe that this has been a plan that's been in operation for a long, long time. And that it's working out. It's in the final stages of what is known as the plan. Okay. That's call them what you will, illuminists, the illumined ones, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. They've been working on this plan for a very long time with a hierarchy that is spiritual, what they call ascended masters, which are, I believe, fallen angels, have been working towards this beast system for a very long time. And I'll let you know now, the current video I'm working on is about the United Nations, the Luciferious Trust, and the whole one world religion and the move and where it's going and how it's got there. That's kind of what I see. So I'm not sure where I think the center of it'll be, whether it's Rome. I do believe that the Roman, Vatican is a huge part of what is coming of this world religion, but whether it's the center of it, whether that's where Mystery Babylon is, I haven't 100%, got a definite opinion on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I did a video a while back. I think it was called Prophecy of the Wound. And I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be any of the world religions that we currently see today. It's going to be something completely different. I do think that you're going to have people from all the world religions go and gravitate towards this new one world Babylonian religion. And where the great city is, that can be up for debate. But I do think it is a religion. Mystery Babylon is a religion. And I do think that Roman Catholicism, or not Roman Catholicism, but the Vatican and the Pope, they are very poised to be leading that. In that video, the Prophecy of the Wound that I did, I said, does anyone know, if you take the world's great religions, the three Abrahamic religions, so Judaism, Islam, and Roman Catholicism, if you take those three, I was like, who is leading the world stage in terms of Judaism and Islam? I think a lot of people would have a hard time. You can't think of a central figure. But if you look at Roman Catholicism and the Pope, he is all over the place. I mean, the mainstream media just loves him. He's getting televised interviews. If you saw that video I did last year about all the CEOs, going to the Vatican and pledging their allegiance to his climate and world agendas, it just seems like he's going to be a leader of this. Would you agree with that as well?
I definitely do. He already is. He's a spokesman for the New World Order, with his climate change address, his encyclical, that he presented in 2015 when he was in America. I don't know, you probably remember that. He was a big deal. He'd written this encyclical about the climate change and, that it was such an issue that needs to be addressed. Well, that's absolutely right in line with the Luciferian religion and what they're playing at. So personally, I think Pope Francis is a Luciferian. That's what I believe. He's a Jesuit. We know that. Basically, I believe he's a follower of the ancient mystery school. And the Jesuits have managed to get control of the Vatican, but they're just part of that ancient mystery religion. Just let me read a little quote. Are you familiar with Alice A. Bailey at all?
Yeah, I forget everything that I've done on her, but what was the title of her book? That'll
Oh,
start
she's
to.
written 24 books, actually. The one I'm going to read a little bit out of, just a short quote, is called Esoteric Psychology, Volume 2. She was the founder of the Luciferious Trust, which is
Right.
a very central part of the United Nations, right? And in this quote, she says, in a world of organized religions, the same condition of chaos is to be seen. The churches in all lands are endeavoring frantically to keep their hold, spiritual, mental, or financial, over all people, and are playing a losing game because the days of control by a priestly caste is in reality over, just as the control of an autocratic dynasty. The work of the great world religions has been eminently successful and has carried through to the desired consummation. And now the new world religion, which is that of the kingdom of God, is definitely upon the way. So, what these people are looking for is what they call the Maitreya or the Messiah. But it's not the Jesus that we know. I believe it's the Antichrist. And so through people like the Lucius Trust, which are huge influential people in the United Nations, and the Pope's a big part of the United Nations. I believe there's a whole religious sort of network hierarchy, spiritual hierarchy that's pulling all of these pieces together. It's not humans doing it. It's the demonic realm. They would call them ascended masters. We believe that they're fallen angels. And that somehow that this is all being brought together into, I don't know how it's going to mold into one world religion, but that's their aim, that's their goal. And I think personally that the Pope is a part of that, a knowing player in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting thing. I don't want to digress too much, but talking about it's more of the Antichrist spirit than people. There's some people that say this is all controlled by some elite society. I think there definitely is people at the top that are pulling strings, but to think that they control all of Hollywood, everyone across the world, that's too much for human minds to really conquer. I do think it's really that Antichrist spirit. Again, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against the principalities of spiritual worlds. And the interesting thing about that is with AI, I talked about how the blood in people is the life, and AI, which is supposedly its own artificial intelligence, its own personhood, it doesn't have blood. It doesn't have life. It doesn't come from God. And so I really do think that AI has an integral part with instituting the beast system. Humans are flawed, both in terms of carrying out God's will and I think, Satan's will. I think there's things where the spiritual battle, we get caught up in things. But with AI, I think that's all within the Dominionism of the Antichrist spirit, and then he can use that. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. And you mentioned the word dominionism. So I think that's another whole thing that we can discuss here because that's playing into it. But personally, I think it's like a well-oiled machine. There's a whole lot of cogs, sort of moving together in unison. And it's not one or two people controlling it. It's ultimately a spiritual hierarchy in the unseen realm, the demonic realm, that are controlling the workings of the machine. And there's a lot of parts to that, and they work together. Some of them unknowingly working together, some of them are unknowingly working together, but there's this great plan to work everything together like a well-oiled machine to get us to the one world government, one world religion, the financial system, the whole deal. But it's actually the strings are being pulled by beings other than humans, though I
Right.
do believe that there's a council, like a council of 13 illuminists and people underneath them, but I don't believe they're all powerful, and I don't think they have complete control because they are actually the ones being controlled. So you have people outside that do not realize that they're all being pulled into the same end time religious system and world government. And then you mentioned AI, and that's a whole really interesting thing because somehow I also believe that that is going to be a big part in this. That's why when people try and pinpoint an exact mystery Babylon location now, or say it's going to be here or going to be there, we don't see all the pieces yet, because we don't know how big this AI thing's going to be. We don't know how much of a player the city of Neom that's being designed and built by Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia with the help of the globalists like Klaus Kleinfeld, who's a CFR member, and Stephen Schwartzman, who's a CFR member, and all of these globalists. They could quickly spring up a massive city. Their aim is to have it done 2025 or 2030 and to be like no other city on earth. So, I'm not prepared to say Mystery Babylon as a city, that because some city is going to have to be destroyed. The Bible's
Yeah.
quite plain about that.
Now,
You know?
I really like how you put that we don't know which city Mystery Babylon is, and I agree with that. It seems like it'd be Rome, but with all these smart cities coming up and United Nations and New York City and all that, we don't really know. But there is one thing I'm curious on your opinion on this. I just want to share a little bit of scripture with people, because there's been about, I don't know, 10 comments or so of people saying, is the U.S. Mystery Babylon? Is the United States Mystery Babylon? Now, my personal opinion is no. I believe that Mystery Babylon is a religion, and I'll show you why. There's one key thing that I always turn to. I mean, this is solid biblical theology of why the United States as a nation is not Mystery Babylon. So, Tony, just bear with me for 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen real quick here. Just let me know if everybody can see it. Can you see scripture?
Yep.
Okay.
I can.
So everybody's looking at Daniel chapter 8. And Daniel has a vision, and he sees two beasts. He sees a ram and a goat. And this is just like John's vision in Revelation, where he has this vision. He doesn't quite understand it. And then an angel interprets it for him, specifically the angel Gabriel. So if you look at this section where it says the interpretation of the vision, he will say, the angel, that is, he says in verse 20, as for the ram that you saw with two horns, those are the kings of Media and Persia, and the goat is the king of Greece. Now, again, these are beasts, a ram and a goat. And it is saying that these beasts equate to nations, Media and Persia. And so we have precedent in the Old Testament, in the Bible, that nations in prophecy and in symbolism represent kingdoms and nations. Now, if we go to Revelation 17 and we start looking at what's a beast, we see that there is a beast, and it has 7 heads and 10 horns. But the key thing here is that this woman, this harlot, also called Mystery Babylon, is sitting on top of the beast. Now, the symbol of a woman that I've shown in some of my videos is usually a religion or a church. And so, we're quite frequently called the bride of Christ. So we are the true religion. We're the remnant, and we're referred to as a bride, as a woman. Therefore, when you have this prostitute, this harlot, that is going to be an anti-church, an anti-religion. And so to say that, maybe splitting hairs here, but to say that the United States as a nation is Mystery Babylon, at least to me, is not correct, because it has to be a beast. And so my position is the beast of the earth is the United States of America. And that is the nation that is sprawled across the entire world, which enforces the beast system, but it's going to be controlled by a one world religion. It is the harlot that's the one world religion. So curious what your thoughts on that are, Tony, and everyone in the chat as well, just what you think about that interpretation.
It sounds like a pretty good one to me. It's interesting because it does mention the king of Greece and the king of Persia, and that's a specific geographical location. And we know the Bible is centered in the Middle East. So is that where the beast system is going to be centered? As far as America goes, well, no other nation has ever. I mean, America's kind of the greatest empire there ever has been, really. People don't really think of it as an empire. But when you think about the influence of America all over the world, it does seem like the hammer of the whole earth at this point. But that doesn't mean that necessarily it will be when we get to the final time.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah,
things
I
could
agree
definitely
that
change.
And I agree, though, the harlot is a religious system. Totally.
Yeah, and so that, I mean, I'm in line with you that in terms of a specific location, the headquarters of the religion, yeah, sure, we don't know that, but I think it's foundational for students of prophecy. It is absolutely key if you want to understand the events to come, that you understand that Mystery Babylon is a religious system, that it's not an actual nation state, that the beasts are nation state. And so with that foundation, you can start to piece together, oh, this happened in 2018. What does that mean in terms of Revelation? But then that's the thing that I see most often is lots and lots of people say that the United States has to be Mystery Babylon, just because of its power, just because of its riches, the fact that so many merchants come here. But again, if you go down to that core biblical theology about what the symbols are, the symbol of a woman and the symbol of a beast, it doesn't quite hold up, at least in my camp.
That's pretty fair comment. I mean, we do know that there has to be a literal city that will be destroyed at some point, but as I've said, and I think you've said, neither of us are prepared to stake a definite, put a stake in the ground and say it's such and such a city where that final city will be. But the Babylonian system it's a religious system, and the beast, the whole thing, if you read Revelation chapter 13, it is worshipping the beast, and the beast actually causes people to worship Satan. If we go to Revelation chapter 13, and actually I might have it here.
I can pull it up for you if you want.
Yeah. Here we go. I've got it actually written down here. So it says that they so they worship the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" So basically, it's telling you there that they worship. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. And they worship the dragon, for he had given authority to the beast. So they're ultimately going to worship the beast. And also, you find if you look in the accounts where Jesus was tempted by the devil, the devil or Satan said, if you will fall, these kingdoms will be yours, which is, in a couple of places. Here we go. Luke 4:5-7. And the devil, taking him up on a high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time, and the authority I'll give you, and their glory, for this has been delivered to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. Therefore, if you'll worship me, all will be yours. See, so Lucifer or Satan was asking Jesus to worship him. Quite plain and simple. He wanted Jesus to fall down and worship him. He acknowledged, Jesus didn't argue with him that the kingdoms were Satan's. He didn't say, no, wait a second, you're telling me a lie. These are not your kingdoms. That wasn't the lie. I believe the lie was Satan wouldn't have given them to Jesus, even if he'd, fallen down and worshipped him. But the fact is that he wanted worship. And then when we go to that chapter in Revelation 13, that verse, we find that it is the dragon, who the book of Revelation clearly shows as Satan, that is going to be worshipped. My position of coming from is I don't believe that Satan is going to be content, and I think we've discussed this before, to be worshipped as a proxy like Allah or Krishna or something else. When it comes down to the end of the day with a world religion and people take the mark of the beast, I believe they're going to know exactly who they're worshipping.
Oh yeah, I mean this is his time, so he knows he has an appointed time, and I can't imagine that he would settle for proxy, just like you said.
No, this is why personally I can't see it being Islam. For you can't worship an image in Islam. Well, I think I touched on that with Joel. He gave a pretty good answer, but I still didn't 100% agree with it. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
So where do you think, and just briefly, where do you think we are in terms of the time? And you're not saying that it's going to happen on this date or this date, but obviously 2018 is having a lot of the same feelings, I'll say, as 2015. And I don't want to downplay 2015. I know a lot of people got their hopes up for 2015, But there was just an immense amount of symbolism that fall, and we're just seeing the eclipse of a lot of these what do you want to call it, domains in 2018. So I've mentioned this a couple times on my channel. We're seeing the domain of the stock market. It's starting to act really erratically right now, which is not a good sign in terms of stability. We're seeing just the warnings of the fake tsunami, the fake ballistic missiles, just all the tensions between Syria and Israel and the Middle East, as well as Japan and North Korea. I mean, this stuff has been cooking for a while, and so I think we're definitely going to see big things in 2018. I mean, that's a given. But whether it really goes the SHTF, if you will, sort of the thing that we've all been looking for, maybe. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, firstly on the stock market, the first fall was on that Friday, and it was 666 points. Well, it was 665.75, but all the media called it 666, made it plain news everywhere. And it was on the 33rd day of the year. And 33 is a big number with the occult, right? The Freemasons and the Illuminists and all of that. 33 is a huge number. If you divide 666 by 33, you ended up with 20.18. And well, it was actually 20.181818 sort of thing, multiple 1/8s, but essentially it's 2018. So the chances of it 666 divided by 13 equaling 2018, or 2018, that's not coincidence. So to me, as soon as I saw that, I thought, this is the Illuminists, the people that are manipulating the markets, are telling you straight out that they're in control and that was a planned event. And that's what I think, that was deliberate, not an accident. It wasn't, it wasn't the hand of God doing it or whatever. It was them tipping their hand and showing you who's in control. Now, ultimately, they think they're in control, but they're not. God is ultimately in control above them. We know that. But as soon as I saw that, I thought, this is a manufactured stock market crash. And whether we're going to see, well, what's going to happen in the next little while, anyone's guess. It could be that it rights itself, or it could be that it continues a small crash. My feeling is this is a mini crash. We're going to get a bigger one later in the year. Not saying I 100%, don't stake my hat on that, but that's my gut feeling anyway, because 2018, as we know, was the year that was forecasted by the Rothschilds magazine, the Economist magazine, in 1988 as being the year of the world currency around 2018. So are they making their move right now?
So this is why you should subscribe to Tony, because I actually didn't look into I knew that the stock market had dropped, the 665.75, but I actually didn't know about the 33rd day and the division. That's really interesting. So that's new for me.
See, they pulled a stunt like that in 2016 in August as well, where I can't remember the details, but I worked it out right then that it was another one of those numbers where they'd planned it, and everyone was going, "Oh no, this is going to be the big Schmeater crash in September," because it was starting in August, but it never happened. And I think at that point it was almost laughing, But this time round, who knows?
Wasn't there another numerological significance to one of the drops? Like, wasn't it 777 on the 7th day? There was like some series of seven. Do you recall that?
That was back in 2008. Yeah, they pull these kind of stunts. So I think it's manipulated, because these people, the Illuminists, the Freemasons, and all that, they do everything by numerology, or gematria that they call it. So they work everything out numerically. They don't do anything by accident. It's why you'll find a lot of things like shootings and all that occur on dates as well. That you can find numerological sequences in them.
So I wanted to wrap up.
I don't want to give the feeling that I think they're in control, though. Because they're pipsqueaks, really, compared to.
Oh yeah, they're just toying with their own little systems. That's all they can control, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I wanted to wrap up with just one more thing. It sort of ties into the whole Mystery Babylon and this new Babylonian one world religion, and that's the fact that this this religion, this government institution, and the religion, that they go hand in hand. And so it brings up the topic of Dominionism. And so I gotta clarify to everyone in the chat room or everyone that watches this thereafter. Anytime I do a video on Donald Trump and I'm critical of him, I get all these comments saying you're a liberal, you wanted Hillary in office, and I'm saying no, that's not me at all. I'm a conservative person. I did not want Hillary in. If I had to choose between the two, it would be Trump. But I also have discerning eyes, and I can see what's happening. And so, Tony, I think you're on the same page with me. To me, Trump completely represents Christian dominionism, and that whole concept is about what's it called? The 7 pillars of Christianity. It's saying that we need to have Christianity ruling our government, our education, our media. I forget the 7 different principles, but it says that we need to control everything, and that's not Christ-like. Christ never said that he wanted to have Christianity be the ruling force of the world, but that's what freaks me out most about Donald Trump. One, he's got major police support. So he's, I think, one of the first presidents that had the Fraternal Order of Police back him. He also has the most number of military generals in his cabinet since World War II. And obviously the military loves him. And then he's got this, I'm going to say it's false Christianity. I know a lot of people say that, oh, he's been saved, but I haven't actually seen that. Yeah. I've just seen him on camera at least 2 times say that he hasn't asked God for forgiveness. So he doesn't understand the biblical meaning of salvation. And he's surrounding himself with false teachers like Paula White. And so it really freaks me out to see Donald Trump really push the religion card, saying, we need to bring back religion. He got rid of the Johnstone Amendment, which has the separation of church and state. I mean, to me, he's a key player in bringing in the Luciferian system. He's not going to get the entire United States to repent and turn away to a more biblical understanding. He's actually driving us into the New World Order. So just curious on your thoughts with that.
Yeah, well, firstly, the 7 thing, it's called the 7 mountains is what they go on, and they are either listed as one of these 2 ways: the home, the church, schools, government and politics, the media, arts and entertainment, sports, and number 7, commerce, science and technology, or some of the others say family, religion, education, business, government, media, and art. Basically, it's 7 mountains, which kind of is interesting when you talk about Mystery Babylon and the 7 mountains, that they've chosen to call this dominionist thing 7 mountains. And a lot of those people that are around Donald Trump are followers of the 7 mountains theology. And one of the people, in fact, that wrote a book, was one of the supposed prophets that wrote a book promoting Donald Trump and saying, what a great thing he was, is a guy called Lance Wallnau. And he was one of the first people to pull that 7 mountains theology into the public light. It had kind of been, I think, come up with in the 1980s, but he brought it to light in the early 2000s. And he's a big supporter of Trump. I've also heard Mark Taylor mention the 7 mountains theology and the desire. Well, they ultimately believe that the church needs to get control of all of those 7 things to usher the return of Jesus Christ. Jesus will come back when the church has dominion over all those aspects, which to me is just completely not biblical. I'm sorry if I'm going around this a long way around. But, one of their websites, the 7 Mountains website, says the Christian church is described in the Greek language as the ecclesia. Literally translated, the word ecclesia means governing body. Although we don't condone theocracies, this translation suggests that the church should have great influence in all other spheres that make up a society. So that's kind of what they essentially believe. That comes straight from one of their own websites called Generals International. But I don't see how that fits in with scripture because, the prince of this world, according to John 16:11, 1 John 5:19, is Satan. He's the ruler of this world. So how is fallen man supposed to take back the kingdom from Satan when we're told that Satan is the ruler of the world? The Great Commission was to preach the gospel and win souls for Christ. Where do these dominionists get the mandate to take the earth back from Satan? We've looked at Revelation 13. The beast and the false prophet are the ones that we see that have a dominion for a time. So there's nowhere I can find in the New Testament where any Christians sought to turn the secular business world upside down by creating some sort of seven mountains mandate. They
Yeah,
turned the world upside down in a spiritual sense, but they didn't go about trying to take back the government. Aside from the Apostle John, all the rest of the apostles were killed by the secular authorities. And John himself was a prisoner on Patmos. That's how when he delivered the book of Revelation. But so did they fail? Why have these modern dominionist theologists suddenly got a mandate to take back this kingdom? Are they better than the original apostles? I just don't see it in Scripture. And you mentioned Paula White and some of those others. Kenneth Copeland, they're all in Trump's prayer team, which to me is a big worry. I'm actually more concerned about a lot of the followers than I am about Trump himself. So, I think Trump's a politician doing what politicians do, but these people have put him on a complete pedestal where you can't touch the guy. If you start questioning him, then you're branded, touching God's anointed and so on and so forth, which I think is completely wrong. I don't call myself anti-Trump and I don't call myself pro-Trump either. I just like to look at the truth of what's going on. But when you start having a president that you can't even question because the evangelistic who stretch the truth ministers are telling you can't touch him because he's God's anointed, I have a real warning bell about that when we are moving towards a Luciferian system.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think the Dominionism has ties with the new Apostolic Reformation, right?
Yeah, they do. Yes. Yeah.
So if anyone's looked into that, this whole theory or this whole theology of new Apostolic Reformation is that we had the 12 apostles and they had the ability through the Holy Spirit to do great wonders and works and miracles. And they said that now we're in a new apostolic age. And so there's new apostles on the earth and there's preachers being branded as apostles. And to what Tony said is these apostles, if you question them, they actually come down on you. It's almost like the beast system coming down on you, like, oh, he's a heretic, off with his head or whatever. Now they're not telling us to behead anyone right now, but you just think about the one world religion and the fact that they won't tolerate the truth. When the remnant goes against these false theologies, I can definitely see them saying, these are the haters. These are the ones that have caused all the terrible wars based on religion in the past. We need to do away with them. It's all about love, right? So in terms of the false Christianity, it's all about the love will prevail. There's nothing about truth and righteousness and justice. That part of God, the fear of God, has been left out of the Bible. But yeah, it's scary stuff. Just the prosperity teaching, the new Apostolic Reformation, the Dominionism. I've been saying for a long time that I'm worried for brothers and sisters in Christ who can't adequately discern these things. Because with Islam, it's like, where Islam stands, where Christianity stands. Where Judaism stands, where Christianity stands. But then when you have these infiltrators into the Christian faith, it can be very difficult.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. But yeah, those three, the prosperity gospel, the new Apostolic Reformation, and the Dominionists, they all go hand in hand. A lot of them are the same people sort of pushing all of that. But what I find interesting is, you mentioned the fact that they have these apostles and, self-appointed apostles and things. It's like they have these grandiose ideas that puts them at the top. And that's basically just another pyramid. You have these people at the top you can't touch, and then everyone else is underneath them, which is a pyramid, And I look at, someone like Rick Joyner, for example. He's very much in this kind of thing. And here, here's a quote from his website talking about, because he's a Knight of Malta. And he was said, I was shown the Lord had preserved a remnant of the true knights of the Order of St. John, because they had a purpose in the great last day battle between light and darkness. One day I actually prayed that even though I had never desired earthly honours or titles, I'd like to become one of these knights. After this prayer, it seemed that hardly a month went by, and prophetic people began to say they had seen me being knighted by the Lord. You know, he's one of the self-appointed prophets or apostles, you know. It's this grandiose thing. Then he says later on, that same article, this was all the confirmation I needed, as I was reminded of the many words I had received about being knighted. And he says there is going to be a revival of true order of knights that will restore honor, nobility, and morality to the nations. I mean, there's these grandiose kind of schemes, you know.
It's
These
all about
people are setting
power. Yeah, they
themselves up.
want power.
It is, exactly. And people can't question them, and everyone follows along with so many of these, you know. But to me, I just see it just leading everyone towards that one world religion,
Yeah.
because we're not called to take dominion over the earth in a physical sense, over the government and all those other things.
Yeah.
We're called to preach the gospel and get people saved. Ultimately, that's what the Great Commission is.
Yeah,
Not to
absolutely.
take back the world.
Well, hey, I was just checking the time here. We're getting close to the hour. So I think what I'll do is ask anyone in the chat right now if you've got questions. I think me and Tony will maybe take, 2 or 3, if that's okay with you, Tony. And then again, I'll make sure that everyone's aware of your channel, A Minute to Midnight. I'll be putting the link in the YouTube description box so you guys can sub on over there. He's got some great material. But let's go ahead and let's open this up. I'm just going to go ahead and scan through here. Tony, do you have the chat up?
No, all I'm seeing is the picture of you at the moment.
Okay, let me, well, I'll just look for some questions here. Yeah, you got to open up a whole nother window. It's sort of juggling windows on Google Chat. But let's see here.
First time I've used Google Chat, so
Tony, you're in New Zealand, right?
that's right. Yep.
So all right. Question
summer,
one, done.
Why I've got the fan going? So it's humid and yeah.
Yeah, man, we're taking these questions like champs right now. It's cold here. I'm in Ohio. I'd rather be down there.
I'd rather it wasn't quite so humid.
We might take a couple questions. Mr. Grimm asked me if I'm an anti-vaxxer. I don't believe in vaccines. I did publish a video talking about adjuvants and how those cause autoimmune disorders. I had to take that video down for copyright issues as well as personal issues, but I'm looking at editing that and bringing it back. So then you can see where my point of view is if you hadn't seen that video. Actually, someone decided to copy my video, and it's out on the YouTube sphere. So if you look up how I got my doctor to shut up on vaccines, you'll actually find my video reposted on another channel. So you could go see it right now if you wanted. Let's see, more questions. Is the rapture biblical? So without getting into pre, mid, or post, this is actually an interesting discussion. I haven't studied this as keenly as I should. Tony, do you know? I've seen a lot of people talk about the rapture, and they study the Greek words, and it seems like a very violent time. Have you looked into that at all?
I, like you, I try to avoid getting into the discussion of whether it's when the timing of the rapture is. I do believe it's biblical, yes. But whether it's, well, this is my position on it. Okay. I'm not expecting that we have a pre-tribulation rapture, but I'm happy to be wrong. I think there will be a rapture, but I expect it's going to be before the last pouring out of the judgments in the Bible that we find there, which is, I think most people call it pre-wrath or pre-wrath, however you want to say it. But I don't have an absolutely firm position on it. I believe there will be a rapture. If we're wrong and there's a pre-trib rapture, we haven't lost anything by being prepared to go longer. But if people are expecting they're going to be taken out before any bad things happen and they're still here, then they maybe have a lot more to lose. So that's, yeah.
Yep.
I'm
so
not
I'm
100% committed.
Yeah, I'm completely in line with you there. A lot of my subscribers know that's how I feel. When I read the Bible, it says immediately after those days, immediately after the tribulation, then the Son of Man comes. And we know that a rapture event is associated with the second coming of Christ. And so it seems like we have to endure these things. Ever since Christ came on the earth, he was persecuted and all his followers were persecuted. So it makes no sense to me that we would somehow be delivered from this. And like you said, my greatest fear is that people have a loss of faith, that they were thinking with all their heart that I was going to be taken up, and then you're not. And then you're here to endure some terrible things. And I want you to think about the magnitude of this. I mean, it says that these will be like the days of Noah. There will be tribulation like the earth has never seen in the history of its creation. I mean, just think about having to endure that and not being prepared for it at all. And even you and me, thinking that it might come, we're not even really prepared, honestly. And we have to pray and for the perseverance and patience of the saints to truly be prepared for this and ask God for strength in this, because we as flesh and blood, we can't handle what's coming. And so I just fear that people who believe in a pre-rapture will just feel deceived and heartbroken. And I don't know what else that might lead to.
Well, when you think about the number of people in other countries that are facing persecution and hard times today, it's not really much point in telling them to expect a pre-tribulation rapture when they're being murdered and, or chucked out of their homes and all that. One way or another, I believe we should be prepared as we can. I do believe in physical preparedness, for what's coming, but I don't think our preparations are going to be anything like adequate for what's coming, no matter what we do. So whether we're here or what, if we are, we're going to need to trust God for the provision, and we're going to need to trust him for direction. We're going to need to trust God for everything, because we won't be able to make it on our own strength.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way that we can do it. I mean, we face struggles every day in our lives, and we have trouble with those, and we have to pray for strength. And even throughout the Bible, all the stories, every single one you look at, people have to submit to Christ, saying, "I can't do this by myself." Samson, there you go. There's just one biblical story out of pretty much all of them. Is he was being mocked in the what was it? What was it? It was I forget the people that held him, the Assyrians, or I forget which people held him. Sorry, Philistines. Yeah, the Philistines. They had him captured, and they were all making a mockery of him, and then he had to pray to God to regain his strength, and he got it. So, we have tons of biblical examples of how we cannot do things on our own, and that's going to be especially true in the Great Tribulation. So, hey, I'm going to take one more question. So let me just scroll down here and see if anyone else had a question. See, there's a lot of discussion back and forth here. So I'm just looking for specific questions from one more person. Well, I'm having a hard time finding one. Unless anyone's got some new ones, I'll scroll to the bottom of the chat. Nope. Might be good. I think we covered it. Well, hey, like I said, we're getting right on an hour here, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I just want to thank you for coming on my channel, and we're going to have to do this on yours as well. And for anyone that just recently joined, I've got Tony from the A Minute to Midnight YouTube channel. I'm going to put all the links to his website as well as his YouTube channel in the description box as soon as we close this out. He's got some excellent material. Again, one of the videos that I suggest you start with is his interview with Joel Richardson and Bill Salas on Who is Mystery Babylon. I commend you, Tony. That was an awesome interview, especially with you as the moderator. You had so many good questions. But just want to thank you again for just coming on. It was a good chat, like always.
Absolutely. I love chatting with you, Mike. And yes, we will have to do it on the A Minute to Midnight show in the very near future as well. So thank you for having me on your
we figured out all the technological problems. We were trying to get started, so we were about 10 minutes late. So for anyone waiting. But thanks everyone for joining in. We had a great discussion, not just with Tony and me, but with all you in the chat. So I appreciate you coming in. And again, make sure you go visit Tony because he's got some great material. So wherever you are in the world, have a good morning, afternoon, or good night. This is Mike and Tony. See ya.